It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. Makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me. Something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. Not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind.
Chris McDonald with you on this Monday night, the 25th day of March 2024. We got our dear buddy James R. on the line with us tonight. We're going to have him as quickly as we can. He's got a few things he's trying to get done. James, I'm so glad I know it's a busy time for you, and I couldn't think of anybody else to have on than you, my friend. You're my brother from another mother. You've always been that. You're a dear friend. Our prayers for your family tonight. And prayers for you as I know you're going through a transitional time, but it's good to have you, friend, on a Monday night, and always a pleasure, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. Yeah, I'm glad I could make it.
I am too, buddy. We'll keep you as quickly as we can. Listen, the main thing I wanted you to come on tonight, this thing with Trump was a huge win for justice today. I still believe it's a travesty. I mean, I'm glad that the fine got reduced. I still feel like he's getting reamed. He shouldn't have had to pay a damn thing. And I hope he gets every bit of this money back. But it was a good day, at least for the Trump family, that they're not going to lose any of their properties. And I saw him out there tonight paying with cash and basically calling Ederon a disgrace, or Egregon, or whatever his name is. But I do want you to explain to people why this bond was so high and why she was trying to make it so high, and how you feel about what happened today, because it's a good day for justice, but I hope that better justice prevails, buddy. That's just my thought.
No, 100%. It was a good day. I don't think it's over by any stretch of the imagination, but basically, this is what the injustice in our system is that when you get found guilty from a trial, they make you post the bond over the amount in question in order to seek an appeal.
Right.
It's just normal like that. The problem is, in this case, nothing's normal.
No.
Nothing about it is normal. The charges aren't normal. The verdict's not normal. It's from a judge without a jury. The penalty is not normal. Like, none of this is in line. So the fact that the appeals court stepped in and said, no, we'll give you 10 more days and you have to pay about half of that in bond. Now, that's not sending a great signal, even that, believe it or not, because everybody's going to think that that's the escape valve, right? Because everybody's going to be buoyed and happy about the fact that, oh, well, you didn't get your way. But it's still $200 million for doing business the way everything else is done in this country.
That's a great point, James.
So, you know, it's a dangerous thing in some ways to be happy about it, but it is a win still, and it's a win for Trump. I loved his boss attitude when the reporter asked him, "What did you put up to secure the bond?" He said, "Cash."
I know, buddy. I saw that too. I just and this, only Trump can do that and get away with it, you know. And but listen, do you think you know, he vowed over the weekend that he's going to take this to the Supreme Court? Does the Supreme Court hear this at some point?
Possibly. Here's the problem: a lot of people don't get. Again, he's got to have really good judges attorneys that craft the arguments based on failures of the law itself or the process. But there's no appeals of judgments. This is what people don't get in our country all the time. They make that mistake. Oh, he lost, so just appeal the loss. This is not how it works. The court has to have made a significant failure in a judgment or in application of the law in that case. Now,
right.
I think that we have a great argument there. I mean, you know, a lot of people were pointing out that the Eighth Amendment should be applied here in this case, because that is against unreasonable fines. And when you have a case where there's no victims, no showable losses, how do you find someone like this? So there's a good Eighth Amendment argument there. There's the additional use of the statute in a manner that's never been used before. So you have the novel application of a law. So that's always subject to review by the appeals courts. So there's multiple avenues here, but, you know, lawyers screw this stuff up all the time.
Yeah.
You know, there's famous cases where lawyers are the problem, not the solution. So we'll see where this goes. But, you know, I don't want people to think it's a slam dunk, because it's really not. Law is complicated, especially when it gets to the appeals court. There's a reason attorneys all have the same joke, and it goes like this: appeals are for losers.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, you know, Dick Morris today, he made the statement that Trump got a fair court. But, you know, James, that's a flip. I'm glad you brought this up, because I've been sort of sensing that too. You know, we talked about this. I don't know if you remember, we were talking about impeachment here a few years ago, back when Trump was in office, and you made a statement one night on the show. You said people thought that it was a slam dunk he was going to get off. And, you know, at the time we had John Roberts presiding over the Senate and Mitch McConnell was backstabbing Mitch. I mean, and it was never a slam dunk then. This ain't a slam dunk tonight. And I'm just curious, does he find a fair court going up the ladder even if he does appeal? Because he could be slapped back down, I mean, you know, again, somewhere else. I mean, is there any possibility they reinstate this obnoxious fine? And look, me and you both know this is all political. And Kevin O'Leary, I love Shark Tank. I love watching Shark Tank. It's a good show. I don't like the liberal douches that are on there, but it's a cool show. But he's not the most conservative of people, and he's been out there telling New York to go F itself, because he said, I ain't going to ever do business with you again. And the long-term price for what they're doing is going to be awful. But the short-term situation, James, is political hit job. I mean, nobody else they do this to. And when you have the governor of New York saying, hey, we did this to Trump, but we're not going to do it to any of you other folks out there, that's an insult. You know, if I'm a businessman in New York or I'm a builder in New York, I tell New York to take their blank and shove it up their blank, right?
Oh, it's costing them billions, even in untold, where people just aren't going to say anything because they don't want the political ramifications. But here, that's the rub. The rub here is, does the state of New York have enough smart enough politicians to realize that they better pressurize their Supreme Court, which is not actually the Supreme Court by name in New York. In New York, the Supreme Court is the lowest court. So just understand, I'm trying to talk in terminology people can understand. The Superior High Court of New York has to, feel enough pressure to understand that a negative judgment in this case against Trump is not just a negative judgment against Trump in this case. It's a negative judgment in any future investors into the state of New York, that if they don't play ball correctly, their money, their property can just be taken from them by an out-of-control court. Because let's face it, every single one of these people, every single real estate developer plays by the exact same rules Trump does. They do the exact same thing. Valuation has always been a speculative value. It's how we do business in America in most things. Everything is based on speculative value. Business loans are speculative value, all right? You're speculating on your sales of whatever you're doing before they exist. So this is not untoward or unseemly or anything like that. And the left just seems to be too stupid to understand that. And I don't get it. Like, you guys have owned houses. Like, why don't you understand that speculative value is what we're talking about here? And you don't have the responsibility to present what some other expert says your house is worth. The appraisal goes through for the loan. That's the due diligence of the bank.
Right.
When you and your real estate go down and sell it, you say, well, this is what the market comps are. So let's list it for $400,000 and see what happens. And then if you get a buyer that says, well, I'll buy it for $380,000, at that point is when the bank that's going to give that person the loan sends in an appraiser to tell them what they're willing to give them in a loan. That's it. That's the due diligence here. So, yeah, this has serious ramifications for the state of New York, and I hope that their court system actually realizes that alone, because, again, this is a novel interpretation of the law, and it can't be allowed to stand.
Of all the cases that are pending against Trump, James, of course, the hush money case is a joke with Bragg. He didn't meet a deadline again about the what do you call it? When one side has to reveal the other side, they required, Trump's people were asking for documents, he didn't give it. Of all the cases that are out there, what is the one case that you're looking at that Trump's the weakest in as far as any chance to beat it? I mean, I think he's going to beat them all, but if there was one case that's got your attention, which one should we be looking for to really watch what happens with the tea leaves?
I've said this all along, and today I have had many serious lawyers agree with me. I'm not sure. They don't agree today, but it's not for what I'm about to say. It's because of a procedural thing. Okay. So I want to be clear. But the most dangerous case to Donald Trump is the J6 case. If the Supreme Court comes back and says presidential immunity is whatever it is, okay, it doesn't matter. It'll excuse half the charges against him. But that's only half of the charges. And here's why I say it's the most dangerous case, is because every one of those D.C. lawyers, judges, and appeals court judges are all in the bag against Trump.
Absolutely.
They will put him in jail. Okay? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will put him in jail, which will create a very unique situation, I think, in this country where the next president of the United States will be sworn in from prison.
Without a doubt, brother. Sounds like a James R. Chris McDonald ticket, right?
Exactly.
But absolutely. Hey, listen, man, I know you got to run here. I'm going to go ahead and ask you, why don't you, I have a few more questions for you, real quick fire questions. I want you to come back a week from tonight and let's do a longer show when you're not under such a time constraint. I do have a lot of questions about overseas stuff, but I do want to ask you one specific thing. The Moscow bombing that took place over the weekend, or Friday, with 100 dead. There's been a lot of saber rattling. Putin's been saying a lot of things. It seems like every time we get together, there's been an international crisis, James. I don't know what that's saying. But when you heard what he said today, and when I heard what happened, and again, I'm probably going to get in a little trouble for saying this. I tell you the first thought I had. I felt like maybe our government wasn't behind it, but it just had our fingerprints on it. In Ukraine, and then when the media came out and claimed it was ISIS, I knew good and well it wasn't ISIS. It was just the biggest joke in the world. But from James R's perspective, where does the world sit tonight with this? And is the United States trying to bait Russia into a war and vice versa, or is it these elites? Because the globalists hate Putin, and I feel like we're getting baited into something, and I'm afraid, bro, we're going to take it. I'm afraid somebody's going to take the bait, and we're going to be in World War III, and I'm going to have you on 24/7 giving a play-by-play of missiles hitting the country. And I don't mean that to be light or funny about it. It's a dangerous, a serious situation. But do you see this escalating, or do you think it's just a bunch of talk and Putin finds, who actually did it, and it doesn't lead back to D.C.?
This is the problem, is that our audiences are not as sophisticated, clearly, as Russia. They're not as sophisticated as any government on the planet. But you really have to stop thinking about Russia as a third world country, because they're
That's
not.
Right.
They're a first world country. They know who did it, just as much as we knew who did it when it happened to us, right? Just as much as Israel knew who did it as soon as it happened to them, right? They knew it went through Ukraine, and that's why they bombed the ever-living crap out of Ukraine immediately following it. It's the same reaction that we've all had before. It's a question of politics trying to get in the way and try to say that, somehow Putin is a rube or an idiot that doesn't know what's going on. Come on. The FSB knows what's going on, right? They figured it out. They got everybody. They put them in court. Everybody's seen their faces and who these guys are. We know that this is most likely, again, I'm never definitive, but it's most likely a CIA type of operation. They had an infill and they had an exfil, and everybody found out about it that was in the game. So question is, what can they sell the public on? What can they make the public believe is true? And so it doesn't matter in the long run, because the people are not buying the narrative that we need to go to war with Russia. And you asked the question early on, and I think it's the same answer I gave. Basically, you and I went live on your program the night of the initial Ukrainian invasion.
Yes, we did.
And the same things we said then are still true today, years later. And I think that this is still true years later, that, Putin knew what he wanted. He achieved it. The West is flailing to use this as an excuse to escalate a new Cold War. That's all they're doing. They're trying to use it so that we keep spending more and more money that they can money launder into their own pockets.
Very true.
That's all they're doing. They do not want an actual war with Russia. What they want is America and the West in general to fear Russia the way we did in the 70s and 80s. That's what they want. They want that level of fear in the population. And unfortunately for them, they're not achieving it. They're only achieving it with their own base, who are a bunch of whack jobs anyways that wear masks everywhere. So,
final question, buddy, and I'm going to let you go. We'll pick a lot of this up next week if you can come back. What did you think about Israel canceling their delegation to D.C. In protest of this UN vote? And then Kamala Harris out there tonight running her freaking trap, threatening Israel if they invade Fata. I am so wishing that, and I know Benjamin Netanyahu may be doing it behind the scenes, but we need to keep our damn nose out of Israel's business, James, and we just can't we can't even fix our own border. We can't even fix our own country. We can't keep terrorism from running rampant in this nation, the violence on the street. But yet we're trying to tell Israel to stop attacking the terrorists that actually did actual bloodshed to them on October the 7th. And, some of the most barbaric stuff that has probably been seen in this century. And the temperature is rising right now between Israel and America, and it's not a good thing. It's just not a good thing to me to see. And what's your thoughts on that? And I will wrap this up with you tonight. Thank you for coming on for the time you had with me, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me and putting up with my nonsense.
Always.
So this is a complex answer that has a lot of moving parts to it. But first of all, the first primary question is, what do I think about Netanyahu canceling the delegation, I think that's smart because he knows there's no upside to it. He knows already what America's going to say. Why? Because they're saying it publicly, right? They've been saying it privately for months. They basically are on the Hamas side of the ledger. And Israel's like, no, we're going to do it our way, just like you guys did. So that's the right move. But the question becomes political, and it becomes down to me saying, I'm glad that the Biden administration are such whack jobs that they're cutting ties with Israel publicly. Because maybe for once, the leftist idiot Jews that are in this country will wake up and start saying, hey, these people are the very people we claim to be working against. Like, so maybe that's another walkaway moment for us, another whole group of people that finally wake up. It's kind of like I said, I don't understand why the Jewish population was the most inoculated with this brand new vaccine when they have personal experience with a guy named Dr. Mengele injecting them with experimental vaccines. Like, I mean, it made no sense to me from the beginning. I was like, Jesus, you people. Like, you say one thing, but then you completely do something else. So, this is a good maneuver overall for both Netanyahu and the U.S. However, the reason I say this is complicated is because I don't think people have woken up to the political realism that Netanyahu is essentially in a no-win situation here.
He is.
He has to go in and wipe them out of Rafah. But the international marketplace for that is growing ever smaller by the minute. So, and that includes within the borders of Israel, that they are going to eventually grow tired of it, right? They need a quick, decisive end. So how does he achieve that in Rafah without putting the public out there that, holy shit, he just bombed a whole bunch of innocent people?
Exactly.
So he is in a no-win situation now. So they better figure out a serious military strategy that goes in hard, kills the least amount of civilians as is ever possible, ever in the history of war, and it happens quickly, and they're done, and they declare victory, because he's on a time clock now. I mean, when you even have President Trump saying similar things,
I saw that today.
Now, let me say, President Trump did not say what's being spun in the media. In other words, the flavor behind it was an observational one. He was only talking about it wasn't very smart to basically propagandize your side as much as they did, because it allowed the other side to use that as propaganda against him. That's what Trump was really highlighting there. But when you start to understand he's making those, we'll call them noises publicly, you start to see that, okay, the appetite for this is growing very thin very quickly across all spectrums. And so Netanyahu is in a tough spot. He really is. He's got to do this quickly and get this over with. And he needs to go into Rafah. I'm a guy on his side, but he's got to be aware of the consequences of getting it wrong. And I'm talking about within the borders of Israel. Forget the rest of the world. I'm talking about within the borders of Israel.
I'm with you, buddy. Any final thoughts real quick, buddy? I'm going to let you go. And again, I'll reach out to you this week, and we'll schedule a longer interview with you. I know you got sort of a time crunch tonight. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I appreciate you and your audience, Chris. You've always, you and I always do the best interviews together. I don't know what it is about the combination, but maybe you're the world's best interviewer, but I doubt it on the McFiles. But it always clicks. We always gel very well, and I wish I could do a show with you every night.
Well, I tell you what, we may have to work on that, but I'll definitely have you on. I want you to come back on next Monday night, the 1st. April Fools. We'll have to get together and pull some kind of April Fool's joke or something. That could be dangerous with the James R and the Mac Man, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Bless you, brother.
I'm sorry about tonight.
That's okay, man. Hey, it's okay. I totally understand. You get some rest and do what you need to do there. I'm thankful for the 20 minutes you gave us, man. I love you. Appreciate you. I'll see you next week, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, brother.
Okay. God bless James. James R, everybody. Put some fire in that house, and please say a prayer for him and his family tonight. It's a private matter, and I don't want to get into it publicly, but it's just a physical situation with one of his relatives and a work issue as well. He couldn't stay with us as long as I wanted him to. So just say a prayer. Did you enjoy him tonight? Put some fire in that house for him. He is my buddy, and I really appreciate him coming on tonight. And we're grateful for all of our folks that are in the house tonight. Good to see Lynette, Patty. Malchador is back. Malchador, good to see you. Cleo's in the house tonight. Outdoors in the house. Good to see her. Karen Berry, Kim K, the Sundance Kid, Bear, Carol Smith's in the house tonight. Spec for Army. Good to see him. Pam Johnston. I saw Kathy Long up there earlier. Carson Jean Cruz is in the house. Who else we got? Lynette Hayhurst, good to see you. Junebug, good to see you tonight. And Rebecca Blevins was one of the first to say hello. Kat, good to see you. True Seekers in there. Outdoor, good to see you, dear. Kathy Tardif, good to see you. Mountain Warrior, are you the one that says Smoky Mountains? That's my neck of the woods. Yep, that's you. Good to see you tonight. And salute to from the Smoky Mountains as well. Misty McLeod, good to see you as well tonight. Bless you for being here and so forth. And Barry Duff, good to see you. Now, we haven't said anything to our Facebook audience, so let me just, Eddie Gilbert, good to see you tonight, buddy. Good to see you. I'm grateful that you're here tonight as well. And let's see here if we can get, hang on just a second. 1 second. Let me see if I can get out of this here and come over to Facebook tonight. Just give me 1 second. Everything's been acting weird this week with the internet. Let me pull up our news page and let's see here. And I'm going to say a few things tonight. There we go. And it's good to see everybody over in Facebook. David Staley, Corey Aguilar, Cleo's in the house over there too. Tim Neal, good to see you. All of you guys that are in the house tonight, thank you all for being with us tonight. Grateful that you're here. And I'm going to take a few questions. Actually, if you've got a question or two tonight, if you want to just make a comment, you can basically put it in the house. I know, Malchador, it's a little hard with the time zone differences, but we're grateful you're here tonight. We really are. It's morning over there, I guess. And we're grateful that you're here. If you got a question about what we've talked about tonight or anything, feel free to put it in the house. I'll chat with you. I'm going to keep you here another 20 minutes. I do want to make a few announcements. We have got Leslie Millwee coming tomorrow night, and we're going to try to twist her arm. We may have the one and only Juanita Broderick back with us tomorrow night. The price may be too high for Juanita. She's done gotten to be a famous Twitter Xer. I'll put it like this. You go into Juanita Broderick's X account, you take your life into your own hands because she just lets it all hang out. That's why I love her. And Leslie's trying to put some Leslie charm on her to have her come on tomorrow night. That'd be a great panel, and we'll deal with this. and then it'll be me Thursday night, our face show Wednesday night. Friday night, we'll probably do another one of these, like a wrap-up show. And I say Thursday night. Thursday night will be late. I know that we'll have 4 shows this week, but if we do come on Thursday, I forgot I've got a engagement with my grand youngin, and but we will be on. We'll try our best to be on Thursday sometime because it's an important week. We have got a jam up lineup coming next week. James R. will be back with us Monday. Nicholas Giordano, the one and only Professor Nick, will be with us Tuesday night, the 2nd. And we've got the one and only Troy Anderson back with us April the 4th. Now, Troy is going to come and he is going to talk about the eclipse that is coming up on April the 8th. And on April the 8th, we will be in Ohio and bringing you live coverage right here on the news network and so forth of the eclipse. I'm sure we ain't the only people that are going to be doing that. But if you're a McFiles faithful, or whatever you want to call yourself, we're grateful if you're faithful. We're grateful you listen to us. We'll have our own spin of it, and we promise we will not be claiming that we are seeing little green men run the earth. we will have it. We will keep it very grounded, very normal. There will not be any weird stuff going on. I was talking to my sister Mac today up there because she's near this epicenter, and we were talking who was going to pay for each other's dinner and who was going to pay for each other's supper. And I said, well, I tell you what, you buy me dinner, I'll buy you supper. We'll just call it even. And she sort of liked that idea. But there's nothing to the rumors that green men are invading Nineveh, Ohio on the 8th. There's no truth to the rumor the earth is ending. I have heard everything, and I knew I would. I knew I would hear all this crazy stuff coming from people on the internet. I can't even watch it. I hadn't even tried to stomach it. I do want to say a few things about it here since we got a few minutes tonight. Folks, listen. There's two extremes about this eclipse, and both are wrong. There's this group out there that if you even mention the eclipse, then you're labeled some kind of weirdo, and they think that you're reading into things and overemphasizing it and all this stuff, and we're not doing anything like that on this network. It's an eclipse. It's on the calendar. It's a celestial event, and if you just absolutely reject the idea that there's anything to it, I think that you are unwise in doing that, and that's just an opinion, because these events like this are huge. I mean, we don't get these events every year. We don't get them every decade. This is about 7 years apart from the last one. The one that was in 2017 lasted about 2.5 minutes. I understand this one is going to last 4.5 minutes. So it's going to be double. The 7 is very important. 7 cities in the country were named Salem in 2017. We talked about this Saturday night in Waveland, and I got something to say about that in a minute. But there are debates of how many cities named Nineveh are in the path of this eclipse, and we're going to deal with the spiritual aspects of it Wednesday night. But I will say this, folks, whether there's 1 city, 7, 6, 5, or 4, that's a prophetic thing to me. I mean, Nineveh it's a biblical name, and we all know what Nineveh stands for. It stands for Jonah and him going to Nineveh and God saying, I'm going to judge Nineveh and giving him 40 days to repent. And you know what happened. Jonah got the city to repent, and then sadly 100 years later Nineveh was destroyed because it went back on God. So there's definitely a biblical tie, and whether it's 1 city, 7 or 70, or 6 or 2 or 3 or whatever, it ultimately don't matter. It's coming across Nineveh, Ohio. And there's other cities that are named Nineveh. The only thing that I've heard that is out there that I tend not to believe, and it's just, and you can, again, I'm saying this is a grounded opinion. There was a theory that the X, because if you look at the map, and I'll have it on the air, probably we'll do this tomorrow night. I'd had it on the other computer, didn't download it tonight. But the 2 eclipses cross in the middle of the country. The one from 2017 went from the northwest to the southeast. This one is going from the southwest to the northeast. And they intersect. And there's one website out there or two that claims that the intersection point is in Rapture, Indiana. And Rapture, Indiana is actually, that's the only city that we've got in the country named Rapture. There's no other Rapture cities except Rapture, Indiana. Ain't you folks in Indiana? I bet y'all feel good about that. Everybody in the world's probably going to condescend on Rapture looking for the great escape in the sky. And I'm not saying that lightly. You all know how I feel about the second coming of the Lord. We're faith people here on this network. And we're both a news network over here, and we're both a faith network. We do both. We're proud of doing both, and we don't back down from either side, because I feel like both sides are very, very important right now. Very important. And but this idea that, well, this is just, there's nothing to this on Monday the 8th, and that's coming up, and it's just people overemphasizing and calling everybody a nut for believing something's going to happen. And folks, we don't know what's going to happen. Nothing may happen. But I will tell you one thing that will happen: the earth is going to go dark. And that region and that cone of that eclipse, and I've been in the one, I was here. The other one came through Tennessee, in 2017, and I'd never seen one up close until that day. We actually took some pretty decent photographs. I don't get compliments much from my brother and sister-in-law about my photography, but they were actually telling me over the weekend, they said, you did good. They said, those pictures, or last week, those pictures I took of the eclipse 2017, they said, that was pretty professional stuff. And my name and professionalism don't usually get mentioned in the same breath. But I was quite proud of the compliment. So we're going to try to do it again. But I'm trying to make light of it a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, folks, there's going to be something that's going to happen in the sky. It's a celestial event, and it's a big deal. We're not going to see this again for another 100 years. And if the Lord tarries, I can tell you, not one of you talking and listening to me tonight are going to be here. So this is going to be the last one that we'll see in our lifetime like this. So it's a big deal. And again, the other extreme is this wacky, the world's going to end, get your money out of the bank, get gas in your tank, trash the grocery stores, stack up on food, the world's going to end, Russia's going to invade, Mars is going to invade, Chris is going to be good looking and black-headed, just weird stuff. And both extremes are wrong. Both extremes are wrong. Because it is an important event. And it is a prophetic event. But how that looks, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I will tell you this. I shared this with the people in Waveland Saturday night. To me, if you ask my opinion of what I feel about it, I believe the message is pretty clear. That sun in the middle of the day on Monday, the 8th of April, is going to go dark. The moon is going to cross in the path of the sun, and this time, again, it's going to be a double duration, 4 minutes and a half compared to 2 minutes and a half in 2017, 7 years apart. I personally believe that the Lord's, if there is a message in this, it's very simple. That America has a choice, that the sun can either rise on us and we can be blessed, or the sun can set on us and we can go into complete darkness. And that ultimately is up to us. That's up to us as a nation. Spiritually, politically, economically, morally. And if we don't quit tearing each other up and quit devouring each other and being divided and being hateful to one another, and the church being the same way, and the church acting worse than the world, and slandering, lying, and backbiting, and griping, and gossiping, and anger, and resentment, and unforgiveness, and bitterness, and all these things that we see happening in this country that, unfortunately, we see happening in the church too. The sun's going to set on us, folks. The sun's going to set. The sun's going to set. And this nation will wind up in complete, utter darkness. And America will be no more. Look, I'm going to put it like this. That eclipse does not cross anywhere else on the earth except America. So, again, to say, well, this means absolutely nothing and we don't need to be focusing on it. Well, I'm not telling you to lose sleep over it, but I'm going to be honest with you, folks. It's important to understand that it's coming. And there's a message in that crossing area. It's not crossing in Europe. It's not crossing in the islands of the sea. It's not crossing in Asia. It's not crossing in Africa. It's crossing in the heartland of America. So, yeah, there's a message. But I think ultimately it's about our choice, because Nineveh had a choice. When God declared judgment on Nineveh, he did not just say, I'm judging Nineveh, and not give it a chance and a space to repent. He gave the city 40 days. He gave the city 40 days. He sent a man by the name of Jonah. Granted, Jonah didn't want to go, and God had to give him a taxi cab in a whale. But he went. He gave Nineveh 40 days. And they took the 40 days and repented. Sadly, they went back on God 100 years later. Nahum come in, and he did not give them any kind of mercy. It was all judgment, and it was done. Israel was given the same choice under Jesus. When he told Israel, he said the Pharisees were screaming and saying all sorts of ugly, ugly things to him. And they said, we demand a sign from you that you're the Son of God. We demand of you. That's what Pharisees do. They demand things of others, but they don't demand of themselves. And Jesus said, I'm not giving you a sign. He said, the only sign I'm going to give you is the sign of Jonah. And as he said, as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth. And see, what they did not realize was that sign was more than that whale. It was about the 40 days. Because it would be 40 years later. Israel probably didn't even recognize it or realize it. He was giving Israel 40 years, basically, to repent for what they did to Christ. The religious leadership, at least. By the way, let me give you a little Bible nugget tonight. I know this ain't our Bible study. I'll talk about this more on the Bible study in the morning at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on our Faith Network. The harlots and the publicans and the tax collectors and the drunks and the thieves and the murderers and all that. Jesus never had much issue out of that group. They are not the ones that crucified him. Nope. It was the self-righteous religious, and that was the same group that crucified him, that rejected him and were spewing their venom at him. And he said, I'm not giving you a sign. I'm not giving you what you want. 40 days in Nineveh. Jonah gave Nineveh 40 days. They did not even realize it, that he was basically telling them, I'm giving you 40 years to repent. The nation didn't. Titus came in from Rome, destroyed the temple. 65 years later, in AD 135, Israel revolted again against the Romans. The Romans said, we've had enough. And Israel was scattered to the four corners of the earth. And they were scattered until 1948. So, that is Chris's opinion, and that is something to chew on. Who knows what's going to happen Monday the 8th? Maybe that's the end of our 40 days. Maybe it's the beginning. Who knows? Regardless, it's still a message and a choice that the sun can either rise on this country in blessing again, or it can set on us in judgment. It's ultimately up to us. It's ultimately up to us. And the way we treat people is really sad. It's really sad, folks. It truly is sad to see the way we treat people. Sundance Kid, will we have a Friday morning Bible study? Yes, we will. Corey Aguilar on Facebook. Let me see what kind of question Corey's got. Hang on just a second. Corey's got a question here. Do we got a question? Or is that posted right there? Let's see what we got. Do you believe Trump will likely be in prison, which leads to the next civil war? Malthador, James R. sort of alluded to that tonight. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. You can't stay 100% sure either way. They want to. I think they want to do more than imprison him myself, but I can't say it on my air. I can't say it on the air. But yeah, I do. I mean, it's a possibility, my friend. Look, our justice system right now, I know down under things are probably pretty bad down there. It's bad all over the world, but yeah, we got a mess over here. We got a mess. This today was a win, and I savor it, the fact that they at least made the thing fair, but it's still unjust. It's still unjust what they've done to him with this New York case. This case should have never been brought. There was no victims. This case was politically motivated, and Letitia James campaigned on getting Trump. She did. A crooked judge went right along with her evil scheme. And look, Trump got fortunate today with this appeals court, but there's no guarantee that if this thing goes any further down the line, he'll get fortunate again. There's no guarantee of that. There's no guarantee of that. And there's no guarantee the Supreme Court will even listen to it. I know he told people over the weekend he'd vow to fight it, And that goes to all these cases. And I'm sort of with James. The J6 case is more concerning to me than any of them. I think the document case is going to be easily dealt with. But, again, we've got such a messed up justice system, Malcador. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you for the question. Sundance Kid says, I'm from Southwest Indiana, and we are supposed to get tons of people coming in, and I am in a small town of about 28,000. Yeah, Sundance, I've heard the same. I've heard the same. I've heard the same as well. I have heard the same as well. Southwest Indiana. In fact, Indianapolis is supposed to be in complete darkness. Dayton, Ohio, which is just south of Nineveh, is supposed to be in complete darkness. So it's going to be an interesting day. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But folks, look, bottom line is we just need to pray for our country. We need to pray for President Trump. We need to pray for each other. And I feel like that we need to take a balanced approach to this whole thing and not get caught up in the craziness, but don't just reject it either. Don't just sit back and say, well, this ain't no big deal. I don't care. I think that the message is pretty clear that there's a message. There's a message. There's a message that's coming on April the 8th. And it would be wise to listen to it. I think it's very prophetic, what's about to happen. Now, again, how that's going to look in the natural realm, I cannot tell you that. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway. Let's see. Do you see the recent video on the Israeli drone that killed the Palestinians that was walking in Gaza? Something is not adding up with that video. I would say nothing adds up with the media, my friend. The one that answered that question. There ain't been nothing that's added up with anything the media said. There's a story we just posted on our Telegram room tonight that the Al Jazeera and Hamas have now admitted that the unjust story that the IDF was raping women in Gaza was absolutely false. Wow. Now, when they were pushing that story, the American government was telling Israel that they needed to stop harming civilians, and because our stupid, imbecilic, moronic, brainless, complete moronic government, I should say, in D.C., believed that report. And now they're admitting tonight that it was false. I wonder if our government is going to go back to Israel and apologize to Israel for that. They never do. Slanderers never apologize. Liars never apologize. The New York Times and the media, who are complicit in that, will not apologize. Nobody will apologize for that lie. They never do. They never do. And your question about nothing adds up, nothing has added up from the start. Israel has faced a brutal enemy. Folks, let me make it clear. I feel led to say this tonight on this Monday night, since I've got the show for the next few minutes here. I don't have any pause in telling you how we stand on this. We are on Israel's side in this. They have a right to defend themselves. Bibi Netanyahu may not be a perfect prime minister, but it's his country. He can run that country as he sees fit. I want you to find me a perfect president. I want you to find me a perfect prime minister. I want you to find me a perfect leader. Even the best of conservatives out there are not perfect. Donald Trump's not perfect. I'm with James. Trump said a few things today publicly that he was trying to get Bibi to sort of watch what he was saying. And when I first read it, my first gut reaction was, Trump is talking about Israel. And then James rightly said that in context, he was not trashing Israel, but he was trying to warn Bibi, what you're saying is going to be used against you. You've got a short time, and you better, whatever you're going to do it quick. And, but you see that sign right back there, that American flag? I'm an American first, but I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And there ain't no anti-Semitism on this network, and we don't allow it. We are never going to allow it. We're in 1,000% support of what the Israelis are doing to defend their nation and to destroy this enemy called Hamas, who butchered babies, burned babies. We've got something called moral clarity that we can see that as evil. While others can't see that as evil, I cannot answer that question other than them just having a demonic fog over their mind and their heart and their soul. People that cannot see this as being evil have no soul. We have no problem seeing it as evil, and we never will. And we're going to stand with Israel on this network. We may not agree with every jot and tittle of her government, but we're going to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and we are going to do everything we can to bring you the truth about what's happening over there. And I will tell you this, the truth will always add up. The truth will always add up. The truth will always add up. Anyway. Alrighty. Any other questions? I got about 10 minutes. Good to see Cindy Mack in the house. Susan Prusy, good to see you. Good to see you tonight. All of you. Really good to see you. It's really good. Corey, if you're in Facebook, I didn't see your question, dear. If you got a question, put it in the house there. Let's see. Tracy said, I just tuned in. Good to see you, Tracy. Good to see you. Let's see here. Any other questions? Any other questions? I'm going to turn this on so I can see. There we go. Let me see here. What that's about. Corey Aguilar, I don't believe it was his either Putin saying he linked these terrorists to Ukraine. Do you think the U.S. knew that before it happened? Corey, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble for saying this. This is my opinion. It's Chris's opinion. When I first heard about this, and when the media jumped and saying it was ISIS, now Putin's out there tonight, just as James was talking, a new story came across the wire on Breitbart that he admitted that they do see signs that this was an Islamic attack. But he's still blaming Ukraine. I do believe we knew. And we didn't tell him. That's just my opinion. I felt for a few minutes, maybe for about 5 minutes this weekend, and I wasn't so sure we wasn't behind it to prompt a war. Because I will tell you all this tonight, and I don't think I'm preaching to the choir when I say this. This bunch that's in control of this government, folks, and these warmongers in D.C., they are thirsty for war. Trump kept us out of war for 4 years, and the day that Joe Biden stepped into this office, they have been salivating for what they're getting in Ukraine and Russia. They're salivating, but they want to involve America in it. That's why we're sending billions and close to trillions of dollars overseas, billions mainly, hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. And do I think we knew what was happening? Yeah, I do. I do. And I don't normally get into those weeds about stuff because there's no really proof, Corey. I'm just giving you my opinion. If Putin says it was Islamic extremists, whatever. But I will tell you this: the rhetoric has been scary. I'm saving my fire about something that I found out over the weekend about our ports in America. I'm not going to talk about it tonight. It's not the time. But if what I heard this weekend is true, you better be praying for your country hard. I'll just say it like that. I think something is amiss and something's up. My friend, the one that was in the chat a while ago, one of you that was in the chat saying things don't add up, there's a lot of things not adding up in our government tonight. There's a lot of things not adding up in our government. And the world's being prepared for war. Roger said, I heard that the U.S. warned Putin of a pending attack of some kind. Corey says Putin said they had escape routes to Ukraine. Well, he did say, Corey, now that's one thing he said. He said he still thought Ukraine had ties to these Islamic extremists. So it wasn't like he was saying, I don't think Ukraine had anything to do with it. But You're right. And Roger, the U.S. can say what they want to. And Roger, I'll ask you a question, friend to friend, amigo, amigo, Chris to Roger, do you trust anything this government says to you? If the government told me and you the sky was blue, I wouldn't believe him, Roger. I just wouldn't. I don't believe a word comes out of Joe Biden's mouth. What words he does utter that you can understand. But anyway, I don't believe it. I do believe they knew about it, but I don't believe they warned Putin. Because Putin's enemy number one in the mind of America. We have made Putin the great Satan. Putin's not an angel, folks, but he ain't the great Satan. Putin sees through their propaganda BS. That's why they can't stand him. I don't like Putin. It's not like I'm jumping on my plane to Moscow tonight and going to live in Russia because I don't want to. I'm an American. And I love America. And I want the red, white, and blue to be my nation. And to be a nation that's proud again. And the sun to rise on it instead of setting on it. And I got 5 minutes. But I don't believe that, Roger. I just don't. I may be wrong. I've been wrong before. Anyway, Deplorable says, Schumer wants to oust Netanyahu out of office, calling for change and Haiti government. I would be surprised if our own CIA was behind the Russian attack. Deplorable again. We don't know. There's no proof of any of that. Schumer did call for elections in Russia and Israel, which I found disgusting. Joe Biden is calling for the same thing. Kamala Harris was out there threatening Israel tonight. Folks, I will tell you this. We better be careful. This government, I'm telling you, this government's words, they had better be careful how they're threatening Israel. They just better. I know they don't understand that. They think it's cute. They're appealing to their Muslim base. I think James R. made a great point. He didn't have time to really elaborate on it. But folks, do you realize that 80 to 85% of Jews in America vote Democrat? They vote Democrat. And I don't know why. I just don't. Because the Democratic Party does nothing for the Jewish community except trash the Jews. They trash Israel. They betray Israel. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but we call Republicans rhinos in name only. There's a lot of Jews in D.C. that are Jews in name only. They don't even respect their own heritage. They don't even respect their own people. But you can't get the Jewish voter, the electorate, to see that because the Jews vote Democrat, and I don't get it. I've never gotten it in all these years. Same thing with the blacks. And nothing against our black folks out there. We love you guys. Y'all are precious. All races are precious. There's none that are more important than others. We're all equal. But there's just something about the black community. I know it's changing to some degree, but they vote Democrat. They've always voted Democrat. And the Democrat Party has never done nothing for them. I think Donald Trump told him that in 2016. He said, why don't you give me a chance? He said, you've tried their way for 50 years. Why don't you give me a chance? And he proved to them that he was going to help their community, and he did. And for some unknown godly reason, they went back to the Dems in 2020. I can't explain that. That's just human nature. But anyway. And yes, you're right. The Jewish people, the Dems have no problem taking Jewish money, and you're exactly right for their campaigns. That is absolutely correct. And again, anyway, and Malcador, you're making my point as I close. You bless Israel, you're going to be blessed. You curse Israel, you're going to be cursed, without a doubt. That's a great point. It's a great point. And that's what I'm trying to say to our government tonight. Look, if you don't like what Israel's doing, pick up the phone, call Bibi Netanyahu up, and have a man-to-man adult conversation with him. Not that there's many adults left in the world these days that can do such. But don't go out and publicly, because Ruth Gudenheim mentioned this last week. Folks, when we do this, when we do that, okay, what the enemies of Israel see is a distance between the government of America and the government of Israel. And the wider that gap, the enemy gets in between the two, and they pit each other. They pit America against Israel and Israel against America. They do it. If America and Israel were side by side like we ought to be, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, none of them would even think about messing with Israel. They wouldn't mess with them because they would think they're messing with the USA. They don't see it like that because of our government. Your point is well taken, and I hope it is well received. And Malcador, what's sad is you're an Australian. You're telling something that we Americans should know and understand that many don't. But tip of the hat, down under. And good stuff. All right, folks, listen, I'm glad you've been with me tonight on this late night McFiles Monday night. I want to thank James R. He couldn't be with us long tonight. He'll be back next week. We've got some great shows coming up this week. A few surprises. We may just surprise you with something without announcing it. And but it's a good way to get started. I do want to apologize. We didn't get back on yesterday. We were traveling, and we had a great time in Waveland, Mississippi. I want to thank Sheila Daspit for hosting us down there. And had a good weekend. The shows are being uploaded to our McFiles Faith Network in full without all the internet interruptions. There was a solar storm. It was a solar storm that took place over the weekend, and it was creating internet issues, and we could not go 15, 25 minutes without the internet kicking out on us throughout the weekend. So we just recorded each session from the start, and I just uploaded it to the network, and you can go and listen to those shows in their entirety. The whole conference should be up by now. We started uploading it earlier tonight. And then our next conference will be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, coming to the Midwest, and that is April the 19th, 20th, and 21st. That's Passover weekend, another prophetic time of the earth, and looking forward to that. And I want to mention one other thing. I'll mention this in the morning on the Bible study. We've got a week of faith coming up later this week. This weekend is Easter here in America and around the world. Easter, Passover is later in the year. It's in April. We're going to do something for Passover, but we're going to do something for Easter this weekend. We normally do a Good Friday service every year. We'll do it again this year. We're going to have a sunrise service Sunday morning, a special time. And we're going to have a resurrection service Sunday. It'll be a Bible study, but it'll be a little bit more involved because it is Sunday. It's Easter Sunday. So I pray you'll be with me over the weekend. Times to be announced. And we'll mention more about that Wednesday night, and we'll have a Wednesday night faith show. And we may have a faith guest, depending on the time on Wednesday. But listen, we love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I hope you've had a good time with us tonight. I've had a good time with you. Good questions out there tonight. I appreciate you all. And we've got some projects coming up. And look, we tell you every night, if you enjoy the content of this show, think about helping us financially. We don't mind asking you for that. ZELLE at chrismac44@gmail.com. PayPal.me/themcfiles. Venmo, themcfiles.Chris. P.O. Box 50942. Knoxville, Tennessee, 37950. All your donations are appreciated and needed right now. And we're grateful for you. And we hope that you had a great night with us. We sure did have one with you, and I will see all our faith study folks in the morning on our Bible study on the Faith Network. I'll be back here tomorrow night, same time, 9 o'clock Eastern, with the one and only Leslie Milway, and we're going to twist Juanita Broderick's arm. It may not work, but we sure are going to try. But Leslie will be with me one way or the other, and she's got a lot to say. We hadn't had Leslie on in a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing my old buddy. Until then, McDonald out on a Monday night, the 25th day of March. I hope you had a good time with us tonight. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, and the ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory, that keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me, something that somebody said because they thought we'd fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. Not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard a rustling towel and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cup hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting from the back roads by the rivers of my memories, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.
Folks, let me remind you, Who'sYourWarriorCoffee.com is a sponsor and a beautiful sponsor of the McFiles programming. Feel free to go to Who'sYourWarriorCoffee.com/McFiles for some great roasted, good tasting coffee. They ship these things once the order is placed through the website. It's the freshest coffee you'll ever find in the world. They're a combat veteran-owned coffee company located near where that eclipse is coming on April the 8th in Brownsburg, Indiana. Get you some coffee, pull you up a chair, and watch the eclipse. And help the McFiles at Who'sYourWarriorCoffee.com/McFiles. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you. See you in the morning. Good night.